In studio with me right now, a man who never seeks the spotlight and is never in the spotlight, political strategist and author of the brand new book, The Clintons' War on Women, Roger Stone, in studio. Roger Stone, welcome to the show and welcome to Lubbock.
Delighted to be with you.
Well, I appreciate you coming in today. This book has been described as explosive, controversial, and head-spinning, I guess you could say. I know Sean Hannity asked you if you had special protection now because of the book. Tell our audience about this. It's a long book and a lot of information here.
This is the definitive expose on Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton. There's stuff in here you knew and you've forgotten. There's stuff in here you didn't know and will shock you. I'm trying to stop this country from making an egregious error because Hillary is not the kindly old grandmother that she comports herself to be, and Bill is not the roguish old uncle who just happened to have an eye for the ladies. These people are criminals, career criminals. Bill is a Bill Cosby-type sexual predator. Hillary has run the cover-up of his illegal and amoral activities. And then, of course, they're both epically involved in the grand-scale $2 billion global scam that is the Clinton Foundation. Add to the middle of that their involvement with narcotics trafficking during his governorship, and you have an epic tale of serial rape, intimidation, physical violence against witnesses, strong-arm tactics, greed, lies, cover-up. It's all there.
The left has attacked you for this book. There are those on social media saying that these are all lies that are out there, but you went out. You're not just throwing information out there. You're not just throwing accusations out there. You went and talked to people, correct?
Yeah, no, there's 27 women that I identified who Bill has sexually assaulted. And I want to be really clear. This book is not about Bill and consensual sex. It's not about his girlfriends, mistresses, one-night stands. If I wrote that book, it would be an encyclopedia. You wouldn't be able to carry it. To the extent that, for example, Jennifer Flowers, who he had a 12-year consensual affair with, she tells us a lot of interesting things in her own book, and I do recount them about witnesses being beaten, about the fact that Bill is not Chelsea's real father, the fact that Hillary has been, according to Bill, has been with more women than he has. I'm not saying these things. Jennifer Flowers has said them, but so we do touch on that, and we touch on the things we learn in the so-called Lewinsky scandal. But this book is about something much, much darker. It's really about sexual assault and cover-up. It's Hillary who runs the so-called nuts and sluts operation to first undermine the credibility of these poor women unlucky enough to have been assaulted by her husband. Whores, bitches, trash, she calls them. People need to know the story. What's interesting to me is I've done these book signings, in all honesty, half the people in the audiences are Bernie Sanders supporters.
Really?
Yeah, this book is not just for conservatives because true progressives, look, I respect Bernie Sanders. I don't agree with him on anything, but I think he really believes what he's saying.
Right.
The Clintons aren't progressives, nor are they liberals. They're crony capitalists. They will do anything, say anything for money and power.
Why do you think the media, the best way to put it covers up for them? Because you see MSNBC, CNN, they're not gonna talk good about this book. They're gonna trash you.
No, because look, I wish they would trash me. What they're trying to do is ignore me, but that's not going to work for reasons we can get into. It's because they're simpatico with what they think the Clintons' political agenda is. Therefore, they have helped cover up the crimes. On the other hand, I think what they have done is so incredible, so outrageous, that you won't be able to keep a lid on it. One of the things I learned in the preparation and writing of this book is that many of the women who have been assaulted by Bill, they're ready to speak out. They're ready to travel. They'll go to New Hampshire. They'll go to Iowa. They'll go to South Carolina. They'll be on shows like this. It's going to be very hard to suppress those women. Now, many of the women have been threatened and are scared to death, but women like Kathleen Willey, who's a very brave woman, they've tried to destroy this woman. She went to the Oval Office to ask for an office. She was groped. She was assaulted. And that was the good news. After that, her home was broken in and ransacked. Her car windshield was smashed. Her tires were, attacked with a nail gun. Her pet cat was murdered. Her children were threatened. When a man calls your home at 3:00 in the morning and says, "Hey, how are your kids? I saw them leave school yesterday, Johnny and Sally. How they doing? Are they healthy?" and hangs up, that's a threat.
Yeah. Visiting with Roger Stone, author of The Clintons' War on Women. You'll actually be having a book signing this evening at 7 p.m. over at Barnes & Noble at the South Plains Mall, correct?
Right here in Lubbock.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk for a while. I'm going to take Q&A until there are no more, and then we're going to sign some books.
You have been involved in politics for a long time. In writing this book, and you've written other books as well, and you've got another book coming out soon that we'll get to here in a second. In writing this book, was there anything that surprised you or shocked you?
I'm a veteran now, if you count Donald Trump, of 9 national Republican presidential campaigns. I've worked in the U.S. Senate as an assistant to Senator Bob Dole. I worked in the House as an assistant to Congressman Bob Steele, which was really my first paid job in politics, I guess. And I've seen the sausage being made, and it didn't take long to figure out that 90% of what the government tells you is BS. They very, very rarely tell you the truth. I did not know when I began in politics what really happened in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. That was my first book. I have become convinced that the Warren Commission report is a crock. I've been convinced that there was a conspiracy and that Lyndon Baines Johnson was the point man. He had the most to gain, and he also had the most to lose because he was facing criminal indictment. The clock was running. He wasn't just facing being dumped from the 1964 ticket. He was facing prison and total disgrace involving his corruption with Billy Sal Estes, who I believe is from right here in the Lubbock area, and some of the the so-called grain silos he owned that never really existed were supposed to be right here in Lubbock. There's no question there is a role by the Central Intelligence Agency. They're upset about the Bay of Pigs. They're upset about the Cuban Missile Crisis because, perfect example, we've been told that brave Jack Kennedy faced down the Russians and they removed their missiles from Cuba. That's completely false. We made a secret deal to remove our missiles from Turkey and Italy. The Russians pledged to return their missiles. There was no on-site inspections. I don't think their missiles ever left Cuba. Visiting
with Roger Stone. The Clintons' War on Women available for everyone right now to go and buy. And, of course, you have the book signing tonight at Barnes & Noble at 7 p.m. You have another book coming out soon as well, and this is about the Bush family.
Yeah, my book is called Jeb and the Bush Crime Family. It'll be out January 26th, about a couple weeks before the New Hampshire primary. It is a real close examination of Jeb's days in Houston, where he was dealing drugs, Jeb's days in Miami, where he was dealing drugs, Jeb's days in college and boarding school, where he was dealing drugs, various shady business enterprises he got into. Jeb is not a businessman. He has never been a businessman. He's used the family name to get a carried interest in a lot of shady business deals. He made a lot of money on Obamacare. He is partners with the Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim in TracFone, which has the federal contract for Obama phones. So he's made a lot of money on the Obama administration. He hopes to make money on Common Core. He gets a lot of money from individuals poised to make a fortune on Common Core, should it become the law of the land. And then we go through the whole arc of the Bush family. Prescott Bush, the patriarch, making big money arming the Nazis. His bank is seized by the Truman administration for treasonous activity. He also owns part of a steel mill that makes money based on slave labor from Auschwitz. George H.W. Bush, who I tried to keep off the ticket with Ronald Reagan in 1980, he heads as vice president an operation that imports millions of dollars worth of cocaine into the United States through Mena, Arkansas, where a friendly governor by the name of Bill Clinton takes his slice for looking the other way, and they liquidate the cocaine in this country. They sell it to raise money to illegally arm the Nicaraguan Contras. Indisputable fact. George H.W. Bush avoided indictment by stonewalling a special prosecutor, refusing to be interviewed, and refusing to turn over any documents. You're not going to find that in John Meacham's upcoming biography. That will be airbrushed out of the way. In addition, for 30 years, George H.W. Bush said he couldn't remember where he was the day John Kennedy was shot. How is that possible? Then in 1985, a declassified federal document shows exactly where he was. Steps away from Dealey Plaza, staying at the Sheraton the night before the assassination. So there's a lot of loose ends there. I also look at the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. There's more ties to the Bush family than have publicly been disclosed. So I expect this book to be a blockbuster. As we said earlier, I just hope Jeb stays in the race long enough.
Yeah, exactly. He may drop out before, but I think he'll still be in there. Let's take the break. When we come back, I want to pick your brain not only more about the books, but also just about the 2016 election, what we're going through right now. And, of course, we'll take folks, if you've got a question, feel free to dial in. 770-5790, toll-free 1-800-687-0790. Roger Stone, author of The Clintons' War on Women, in studio, book signing tonight, 7 p.m., Barnes & Noble at the South Plains Mall. In studio, political strategist, author of The Clintons' War on Women, and soon, what is the book title again?
Jeb and the Bush Crime Family. You can find them both on Amazon. You can pre-order the book on the Bush family. You can buy the book, The Clintons' War on Women, by going to clintonswar.com or rogerstone.com, no D, rogerstone.com, where all my books, including The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ, can be purchased.
All right, and book signing tonight at Barnes & Noble, 7 p.m. Everyone's invited to go out there, and Q&A as well. That'll be out there. We talked during the break, legal issues with the book, and that's one thing that I'm sure you've been asked about before is, okay, there are a lot of things written about in this book and other books. Are you ever worried about the legal issues?
Well, first of all, I can tell you, when you write a book like this, the lawyers for your publisher put you through the ringer like nothing you've ever seen. These high-priced New York lawyers who are specialists in libel and slander, they make you justify every sentence, every comma, every jot and tittle. Frankly, I don't fear a lawsuit because truth is the ultimate defense. If somebody wanted to sue me, that means we'd have discovery, and I would be allowed, my lawyers, although I think I'd do it myself, would be allowed to question them under oath without limitation. Believe me, the Clintons have avoided being under oath on these questions for 30 years. They don't want to start now because I would get into, question like, for example, Dan Lassiter was a big Bill Clinton financial supporter. He was also the biggest drug trafficker in Arkansas. He got busted. He got convicted. He hired a woman lawyer by the name of Hillary Clinton, and he got a full pardon from the governor. Amazing how that works.
Right.
They've never answered any questions about that, but they should.
Visiting with Roger Stone in studio. Let's talk about 2016. You have worked for numerous campaigns, numerous presidential campaigns in your history in politics. You worked for the Donald Trump campaign up until, I believe, August. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Let's start off with Trump. And I know you're still, even though you don't work for him, you're still a fan of Trump. You know him
Big fan.
better than most people do because you've worked for a long time with Donald Trump. What do people not know about Donald Trump?
Well, I actually think the good news is what they do know. The reason he's doing so well is I think people realize that he's completely unscripted. He's uncontrollable, not by the special interests, not by the PACs, not by the lobbyists, not by the other billionaires, not by Wall Street. He is his own man. And he says exactly what he thinks. He's not politically correct, as he likes to point out. And therefore, I think he's the only one who could take on what is really a broken system. Look, I worked in the Senate. I worked in the House. I worked as a lobbyist. Everything in Washington is for sale. For the right amount of money and hiring the right people, you can get anything. And that needs to be changed. No one will ever really cut federal spending because I can tell you, I worked on the federal budgets. Every dollar in there, every wasteful dollar, was put there by somebody. So Senator X from Wisconsin takes a lot of money from the widget manufacturers. He puts special funding in the budget for widgets, and you're never going to get that out of there unless you have somebody with the courage to go in there with an axe and cut it. Nobody owns Trump. He's not buyable. You can't bully him, and therefore I think he would bring a whole new perspective. Pardon me, the Washington political class is wetting their pants because this guy cannot be co-opted in any way. Now, I disagree with him on some issues, but I think he would clean up a dirty system.
Do you think that, and there are a lot of folks out there who go, okay, he's running as a Republican, he's a Republican nomination, is he leading the Republican nomination? Is he conservative enough to be the Republican nominee? Or do you think that even matters to voters right now? They like his in-your-face style. They like the his overall style, I guess.
He's a populist conservative. He's not a pure conservative. Of that, there's no doubt. So there are those in the Republican Party who say, oh, no, the hedge fund managers, they shouldn't pay more taxes. You know what? Yes, they should. They should pay the same as everyone else. Why should they make millions and pay virtually nothing? Now, that challenges the conservative orthodoxy. But on the big picture issues, rebuilding our military, which is in the worst shape it's ever been in, rebuilding America's military strength, challenging and crushing ISIS, cutting taxes on working people and laying some more taxes on those in Wall Street who are making millions and not paying their fair share, cutting the corporate tax rate, which is currently 35%. China is 25 down to 15. That would make all those U.S. companies doing business in China come home, expand here, hire here, create jobs here. The $2 trillion that's offshore in what they call inversion, pull that money back in and tax it in the United States. Trump would do all those things, and you couldn't co-opt him. So I think he is. I think he's fundamentally a conservative. He's certainly a populist conservative. And what you see is what you get. Having worked on and off for him for 37 years, I can tell you, he's unscripted, he's uncoached, he's unmanaged. Nobody puts words in Donald Trump's mouth.
Let me ask you about a couple of the other candidates. Just,
Sure.
You can respond real quick on some of them. Ben Carson, overall thoughts.
He was so surprised by these recent increases in his polls that he almost opened his eyes. I mean, I don't really understand what he's running on, what the underlying theme is. I mean, look, Donald Trump wants to make America great again. Marco Rubio wants the new American century. Ted Cruz wants to return us to constitutional principles. I don't know what Ben's running on other than I'm the black guy. I'm the Republican Obama, which has some limited appeal, but he's never run anything. The job here is chief executive. Donald Trump has been the executive of a multi-billion-dollar international company with over 2,000 employees around the globe. Ben has never run anything. He could be a brilliant surgeon. He's probably a brilliant surgeon, but I think you need some managerial skills, and I don't see him having those.
What about Ted Cruz?
I like Ted Cruz, despite the fact that his...
Is that Donald Trump right there calling you?
It is not.
Okay.
I hate to disappoint. I like Ted Cruz. First of all, I like his skill as a speaker. I like the way he expresses himself. I like the fact that he is running a very good, I think, long game campaign. And if Donald Trump dropped out tomorrow, which I do not in any way expect, or if he got hit by a bus tomorrow, which God forbid I also don't expect, Ted Cruz would be my second choice. I like Ted Cruz a lot. Now, he does sound exactly like Mr. Haney on Green Acres. If you close your eyes, there's no way around that, but I still like the guy.
Roger Stone, a political strategist, author of The Clintons' War on Women. You can see him tonight over at Barnes & Noble at 7 p.m. Appreciate your time today.
Delighted to be here.